104. Now we're going to create migration for posts table, and we're going to create model as well. And it's time to actually save data into the database and return the data from the database. To create model in migration, we're going to use artisan. PHP artisan make, then we're going to pass model here. Make is a namespace, model is a command, and we're going to provide the model name. The model name is post, and I'm going to provide -m flag as well to generate migration alongside with the model. I'm going to hit the enter. Two files were created. We have the post model, and we have this migration class as well. Now let's first open migration class. So Laravel is smart enough to generate the following boilerplate code. It understands that we want to create new table posts, and the new table has ID and timestamps. The timestamps are basically two columns created at when the record was created and updated at. Now, to tell you a little bit more what the migration is and why this is helpful, if you are absolute beginner to Laravel. Migration is a special file which saves all the database schema changes. It has two main methods, up method and down method. Up method applies the changes into the database. Down method reverts those changes. And migrations are absolutely crucial when building Laravel applications or any other modern application, because we want to keep track all the changes we're making in our schema in a structured and sequential way. Because when we create some tables, when we add some columns into the table, and then our colleague wants to continue working on our project, the colleague should have the same tables and same columns as what I created. So I document those changes into migrations, and my colleague simply executes unexecuted migrations, and those changes will be applied into his or her database as well. So this is exactly the main purpose of migrations. Now let's generate several columns into this post table. Let's define several columns. So we need title, which must be required, and I am going to also define actually not string, but let's define text to be body to be text, and I'm going to define also foreign key to the users table, because every post belongs to a user. All right, so there are two ways to define this foreign key relation. One is using foreign ID4, in which case I have to provide the model name, like user as an example, and that's it. The second way is to do this using foreign ID. Foreign ID, and we're going to provide the name, and the name is going to be author ID. By the way, when we define this using foreign ID4, the second argument should be the local column name, like author underscore ID. Okay, now this is the first way. I'm going to explain which way you should use in which case. The second way is foreign ID, which references on users table, and we can also provide cascade on delete. Like whenever user is deleted, posts that user's posts will also be deleted. So which one to use? Whenever we define relation into user table, we can use this foreign ID4 with the model usage. But whenever we define the relation into another table, we must always use the references with the table name. We should not use model name into the migration file unless it is the user model. Okay, that's the rule. That's because whenever we in the future, whenever we execute migrations or whenever we roll back our migrations, the model at some point might not exist in the data. Okay, I have to explain this because I started talking about this. I didn't intend, but I started talking about this, and I have to explain this very clearly why it is not good practice to use model names in the migration. Okay, now let's imagine the following case. So this is the user model, and user model is necessary for the project. So we as I mentioned, we are going to leave the relation like this when we are setting up the foreign key to the user model. But if we're talking any other model than the user, imagine the following case, that we defined a relation into that model like this. All right, we saved it. And let's say after 1 month, we decided that we no longer need that model. So what we do, we go into models section. Let's say that we are talking about the user model. We go into models section and we delete that model, right? We don't need that. We delete that model. Also, we create new migration file, which drops the user's table from the database. And now look what happens. Whenever a new developer comes into the team, and the new developer starts working on the project, clones the project, and when I say clone, I mean simply downloads the project from the GitHub version control system remote repository and executes the migrations in sequence. In the migration, we have the following code which uses the user model, but the user model does not exist anymore. Look what happens. User model doesn't exist anymore, so the migrations is not going to work anymore. Unless when you are about to delete the user model, you're going to come into every migration and just simply change this foreign ID4 into the following syntax, which is this. All right, so that's why if we are not talking about the user model, so if this is the user model, it is very, very less likely that the model can be deleted, right? So if we are not talking about the user model, this is the practice you should follow. When the migrations are about to be executed, the users table will be created, everything will be executed, and at some point, let's say after hundreds of migration files, the user's model will be dropped. So that's totally fine. All right, I hope this makes sense. But because we're talking about the user model, and I don't plan to delete user model in my project because it comes with the Laravel, it is essential for the Laravel, I am not going to delete the user model. That's why it is fine to define the relation like this. But for any other table, use the following syntax. Okay, that's it. I know I talked too much about this. So we can execute now PHP artisan migrate. We hit the enter. Now create post table migration was executed, and now we have posts table in the database. Now let's open post controller and find the store method, and let's implement creating new post. Like we did the validation right here, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to copy that part. I'm going to actually remove this. And we have the following validation rules for title and for body. So we receive the data, and inside the data, we are going to save, we're going to assign the author ID as well, because our posts table has author ID as well. So at the moment, I'm going to assign author ID to be 1. So simply we're creating a post for the user with ID 1. That user, by the way, does not exist in the database. Our users table in the database is empty. So I'm going to create that user manually. But for now, let's assume that it is already there. After which we are going to use post model. And then on the post model, I'm going to call create method. Inside the create method, I'm going to pass data. So I'm taking this entire data with the title, body, and author ID and creating post out of it. So finally, I have the created post right here. So then I can take that post and return as a response with status code 201. One last thing is to go inside the post model. Post.php, and I am going to define right here protected fillable, and I'm going to define 3 properties or 3 columns: title, body, and author ID. Why I need to define this inside the fillable? Let me explain this. Whenever we're calling create method and providing this associative array, we are doing mass assignment of multiple properties at the same time into the model. So we have only three properties right now: data, inside the data, title, body, and author ID. But that data might be massive data, 20, 30, 50 properties inside. So when we do the following, we are assigning all properties at once. And sometimes, if we don't define this fillable, there might be some sensitive data as well inside the post model, which we don't want to be filled and saved in the database. As an example, we might be filling and creating user model like this, and user table has is admin column in the database. And whenever you are creating a new user, you're registering a new user, we don't want this is admin to be passed right here. Of course, we do the validation. Of course, we can simply, if we don't include is admin inside the validation rules, inside data, they will not be presented, right? So simple example is that if we simply open Postman, make post request, and we provide title, and we're going to provide body as well, post body 2. So even if we provide additional flags like is admin, true as an example, when we validate the data, we only get the data which was validated. So if I return the data right now, is admin is not going to be there because we don't have any rule for is admin. So we hit on send. Oops, that should be changed, the URL. Oh, do I have syntax error? Yeah, I have somewhere. Yeah, semicolon is missing. Okay. Look at this. So is admin is not there. So that's one and really good security measurement by Laravel. So when we validate the data, we don't have any unintentional data inside it. That's good. However, Laravel provides an extra security level when creating posts. So even if we have is admin flag for the user as an example, and we provide that inside through this data, if that is admin is not defined inside fillable here, then it will not be provided, will not be filled, and will not be saved in the database. So I want to make this very, very clear. That's why I'm explaining the same thing. Cool. Now, since we define title, body, and author ID into fillable, we know that we can create post. So I'm going to save this. Let's go into post PHP, save that model as well, and send the request. Let's see what we're going to get. We get 201 status code. We get just created post with author ID. We updated it, created it. And by the way, how was that possible? Because I thought we didn't have user in the database. So if we provide 2 here, that also works. Okay, it looks like that this author ID doesn't have a proper relationship on the users table because we don't have users. We don't have users with ID 1, 2, and 3 in the database. I missed that constraint part. That constraint part is a crucial and important part because right now it is just a column. We try to set up this relation, but it is not constrained, meaning that we are allowed to put any information inside the author ID. But since I add this constrained, now it means that we will not be able to enter some information inside the author ID, which does not exist in the users table. Now, this is what I'm going to do. PHP artisan migrate colon rollback dash dash step equals 1. Simply, I'm rolling back only one migration file, which is create post table. So it's going to drop the post table. And now I have updated code here. So I am going to re-execute that migration. And now I'm going to have this author ID to be constrained, meaning if I send request to create post with the author ID, okay, with the author ID 3, this should not work. Let's send the request. Look at this. So we have this integrity constraint violation, foreign key constraint failed. This is exactly what I just said. So we are trying to use the author ID 3, but there is no user with the author ID 3. Even there's no user with the author ID 1. That's why I expected an error, right? So now what we are going to do, we're going to create one user. PHP artisan tinker. Now let's do the following. User create. I'm going to provide an associative array, name to be Zura, email to be zura@example.com, and password to be decrypt from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This should create the user. Okay, the user was created. And by the way, what is the ID for the user? We're going to check this because it might not have the ID 1 because we already created and deleted some of the users. So it might not have ID 1. Exactly. Okay, it has ID 2. So you know what? Let's update the users. Let's print the user. This is it. Let's update the user's ID to equal 1. You save. Okay, now we have a user which has ID 1. So if I select the user with ID 1, we're going to find it. Now, if I send the request, that should already work because we have user with ID 1. So that created new post for the author ID 1. Really cool, really awesome. And we return the status code 201. Now, let's do update as well. Or maybe let's simply first return all the posts from the database. For this, we're going to use post model all method. At the moment, I'm going to return all the posts for all the users, no matter what. So sending get request to get all posts, we are going to get the following list of the posts. Awesome. Store is implemented. Let's go into show. Now here we have the ID. That's really interesting thing. So what we can do here is to select the post with the following method. Post, find and provide the ID. Okay, if this will try to find the post. If it finds, the post will be populated. If not, the post will be null. All right. So if the post doesn't exist, we're going to return not found 404. There is a built-in method in Laravel which is called find or fail, which will exactly do that. If the post does not exist, it will return with 404 status code. If the post exists, we are going to return that post. Save it. Get request for a specific post. We hit the enter, the post was returned. Now let's try to find the second post. It doesn't exist. Now we have this 404. No query result for model post 2. Now, I'm going to show you a shorthand version of this. Laravel supports rote model binding. So if we type, I'm going to exit from here. If we type PHP artisan rote list, we have the following rows. And if you pay attention to get a specific rote, we have the post variable here. So what we can do is change that string into post and give this also post's name. Now, Laravel is smart enough to identify that if user is trying to take the post instance from here, Laravel will try to select the post by itself with the given ID and pass the post here. So we don't need this line at all. I save it. We make the request. The result is pretty much the same. If we make the request for the first post, we get the first post. This is rote model binding. When we take the model class right here, provide the model class, and take the model instance then. Okay, now let's do the update. So we get the data. Again, we have the string ID, which we can change into post. Instead of selecting the post manually by the ID, we take the post here. Then on post, I am going to call update, providing the entire data. The post is updated, and then let's return updated post object. Now let's perform the update for the first post, which has the post to post body 2. I'm going to change the title into updated. Send the request. Now look at this. We have the title updated for the post. And let's do the destroy as well, in which case, again, we can change this into root model binding. Instead of ID, we accept post. We take the post and we call delete on this. The post is deleted and we return with a no content. Now let's send the delete request. We get 204 and there are no posts in the database. If we send the request to get all posts, it returns with empty